On this episode of the Clip Service podcast. The dust is settled a little bit from the trade deadline. A lot of things to talk about in regards to that. Some of which is going to be a little bit painful for Rola and I. As you guys know, we're big Terance Mann stands, and unfortunately, Terance Mann is no longer a Los Angeles Clipper. So we're going to talk about that pretty in depth, as well as the other trades and moves that the Clippers made. We'll talk a little bit about the other trades around the league in a segment that we like to call Grade the Trade. We'll talk about the last couple of games from the Clippers, which have mostly been pretty bad. We won't lie to you. But maybe some silver linings ahead with the new acquisitions. A couple games before the All-Star break that Rola and I will preview. So a lot to cover on this episode. So without further ado, guys, let's make it happen.
What's up, Clipper Nation, and welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. Please make sure to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, and YouTube. And you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Clip Service Pod. I'm Rola, and this is my co-host, Nick. Let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it indeed. Guys, the day finally came. Rola and I were a little bit fearful that it would happen. The writing was kind of on the wall, unfortunately, this season. And kind of didn't think it would happen. Wishful thinking, whatever you want to call it. But basically, to sum it up, Terance Mann, Los Angeles Clipper legend, drafted by the Clippers, second round pick, Game 6, Utah Jazz, star, 39 points to help the Clippers get to a place that they had never been in the Western Conference Finals. Has played his last game for the Los Angeles Clippers. He is now a member of the Atlanta Hawks. First off, I just want to say that it has been an absolute pleasure to watch Terance Mann grow as a player and, really endear himself to the this deadline really took a toll on both of us, but specifically Rola for other reasons that we'll get to as well. But yeah, it has been an absolute pleasure to watch Terance Mann grow. 43rd, 45th or whatever it was pick out of Florida State, came into the league as an athlete, a little bit raw offensively. And you kind of saw it from the bubble. The Clippers went to the bubble. There was a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder that Terance Mann almost had a triple double in. It was kind of a throwaway game, but from that point, Clipper fans really started to, take interest and, see what exactly this dude could offer. And from that point, it was, year after year, it seemed like he was, improving in one way or another, whether it be on the defensive end or, his versatility. He would play point guard or, starting point guard and then point guard off the bench, and he'd play the three and then he'd guard fives. And then, of course, there's been a lot of moments that Terance has really shined. And, I think there's a lot of moments that kind of get swept under the rug, like the comeback that he and Luke Kennard had against the Hawks when, all the starters were pulled. Ty Lue puts the whole bench in, and Luke and Terance lead a comeback against the Atlanta Hawks a couple years ago. But the one thing that a lot of people really can look at to encapsulate Terance Mann's time as a Clipper was the Game 6 comeback against the Utah Jazz in the playoffs. Clippers win the game behind 35 or 39 points from Terance Mann. A great performance from Paul George as well. Hell of a series, hell of a performance from
We don't care
from
about
Terance. This is about Terance, yeah. helped the Clippers, get to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history. The building was live. Terance Mann was pumping up the crowd. He's a special dude, and Clipper Nation will never ever forget Terance Mann and what he meant to the organization. I mean, this season, he really took a step back, and whether it be an inconsistent role or something going on personally, he definitely regressed a little bit. But he will never be forgotten by us Clipper fans. That's for damn sure.
No. For those who can't see me currently or are listening on Spotify or on their way to work, I'm currently wearing all black uh, because I'm grieving. I'm mourning.
Yeah.
I feel disrespected. I feel
you
like I
feel,
got
you feel disrespected.
I feel like I got slapped in the face because anyone who's a fan of our podcast or who knows Nick and I in person know that we are diehard Terance Mann fans, Terance Mann stands,
Hmm.
and you know it's pretty obvious why. When you watch, you know, this dude in the playoffs, that's where the games matter the most. That's where little things matter the most. When you have a player who brings energy to the team, shows that he wants it. That's the type of player that you want to keep on your team. And to see Terrence Mann go, especially after these most recent playoffs, where it was kind of a do or die, and our stars needed to bring it and be there. And when they didn't, specifically Paul George, who we all know has one of the weakest mindsets, to see that mindset and to see someone like Mann's mindset, who doesn't give up, brings the energy, does the little things, goes for the ball, defends the best opposing player, uh, dunks, gets points where he can, and is just an overall great teammate. To kind of just let that guy go, uh, like I said, is a slap to the face to the fans, to the people that watch the Clippers and want to see the Clippers win a championship. Because now it's like when you look at all the best teams in the league, every team kind of has that one dude that's they say is the glue guy, the guy that brings the whole project together. And for me, that was Terrence Mann. He was that Swiss Army knife that can kind of give you what you need when you need it. Like Nick said, there were multiple times where the Clippers have looked flat, or we needed someone off the bench to kind of bring us back in the game, and Terrence Mann has always done that for us consistently. And like Nick said, I mean, he's regressed a little bit, but I don't think that was the right move to trade him. Overall, I think it's better for him in the long run because he can put himself on a team that's ready to win. I don't know if that is the Hawks, although the Hawks have been deep in the playoffs in recent years. But it's just sad to see, man. And maybe the Clippers did it as like we're not gonna be there soon or in recent years or in the next coming years. So Terrence Mann, like, we want to release you to be the best you can be. But it's just hurtful to see. It's hurtful to watch, and to see Terrence Mann wearing another jersey that's not the Clippers is gonna be weird.
It's already
And
been weird. I've
it's
watched I've watched today's game, a little bit of today's game, the Hawks and the Magic, and then the last game, and it is weird to see Terrence in a different jersey. To kind of piggyback, sorry to cut you off,
oh
Rob. To
no.
kind of piggyback off what you were saying, I do think that I think there's a part of me that's happy for Terrence, just because I think that with how he did regress this season, because he did, and that's just how it goes.
Mhm.
Uh, I was kind of the belief that he would figure it out, at some point. I'm not really of the camp that believes that he should have been traded. Um, I'm obviously very upset that he's gone, but I think that because of the regression this season, and other guys were kind of filling the role that he normally does, i.e. Chris Dunn or Derek Jones.
Hmm.
Those guys kind of stepped in and kind of filled that role a little bit and made Terrence a little bit more redundant, unfortunately. Um, I think that now Terrence gets a fresh start to be able to showcase what he can do, what we've seen him do, to another coaching staff, another group of teammates, and just get like a fresh, a fresh start. And I think that'll be good for him.
Yeah,
I'm sure Hawks fans are going to love him. Um, but yeah, it's tough. It,
kind
it,
of
it re-
leading,
Go
kind of
ahead.
leading into the next topic. Like where I guess with this trade with Terance Mann gone, it kind of begs the question: where are the Clippers headed? What's the next plan? What's the next? What are we trying to do here?
Well, so the trade for those of you guys that didn't know, the overall trade was Terrence Bones and some second round picks for Bogdanovic. Bogdan's a little bit older. He's definitely got some injury question marks, over the course of his career.
Hmm.
But
Well,
he's
he's been out for this whole season, pretty much.
pretty much, yeah. He's when healthy though, you have to look at what he provides, and Bogdan. Especially if we're comparing him to the Terrence of this year, Bogdan is definitely like an offensive improvement. This is a guy that can get you, he can give you a similar output to what we saw when Norm was on the bench in years prior. He could be like a six-man scorer. He was great in the Olympics this last time around for
Hmm.
Serbia. We've seen him go for 25, 30, 35. um not consistently, but he can do it. He can do it every other game, or every handful of games.
Hmm.
So I think what the Clippers are doing, making that trade, and as I said, he is a little bit older. Terrence is going to be 29 this year. Bogdan, I believe, is 32 or 31. So he's a little bit older, but what the Clippers I think are trying to do here is have a de facto bench score, because I won't lie, the bench scoring has been troublesome at times this season. When Amir's not hitting his shots, or when Nico's not hitting his shots. With Dunn's offensive, Dunn's been a little bit of an offensive liability this season. So when the usual suspects on the bench aren't hitting their shots, uh, you know, it kind of forces the stars to come back in. The stars look tired, and then it becomes kind of like a snowball effect. So I do think that it makes sense, on paper, to be able to get a guy that can do what Bogdan can do if he's healthy, and it seems like he's healthy right now, as it stands right now. Um,
He's been healthy for what, a week? I mean, he got injured in the first game of the season, and I believe it was a groin injury, and he was sat for months.
it's
And I think he
definitely
just recently got like healthy.
Yeah, it's definitely a question mark. But if you look at this season alone, Terrence wasn't really getting the playing time that he probably should have. So you're basically taking somebody that's, playing 10, 15 minutes a game, and putting in somebody that can get you 25 points, that can play 25 minutes a game. And with how tired the starting lineups looked the last couple games, and how flat they've looked, I do think that the team will welcome having a guy that you can give the ball to and just go ahead and score when shots aren't falling and stuff like that. So I do think that it kind of makes sense. I think that we're still dealing with like the emotional aspect of it, which is it's easier
I'll
said than
never get
done,
over it too.
because it's a tough loss, just from like I said, an emotional standpoint with Terrence. Um, as far as the other trades go, I hate to move on from Terrence Mann. As I said, Clipper Nation is going to miss him, and we are all rooting for Terrence Mann. Every step of the way. I'm never going to stop rooting for Terrence, no matter what team he plays for.
Me too.
Um, but as far as the other trades go, just to kind of talk about what the team looks like now as a whole, Kevin Porter Jr. was traded to the Bucks for Marjon Beauchamp. Um, Marjon Beauchamp's had a slow start to. I mean, he looked pretty good his rookie season. I believe he's 24. This is like his third year in the league.
Hmm.
Kind of like a combo forward. He's raw offensively, but he's super athletic. Seems like a pretty high character dude. And I think that with Kevin Porter, there was a lot of question marks. Kevin Porter had his moments this season. Also, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Bones. It didn't really work out for the Clippers. I was super high on Bones. Hopefully, he can find a role somewhere in the league. I think the Hawks are going to waive him. So, shouts out to Bones. But as far as Kevin Porter Jr. goes, I do think that it was a lot of like give and take. Kevin Porter would string together solid 5 minutes of being a ball handler off the bench, but he would go and he would turn it over. Or he would, his shot selection was really, really poor at times. And then you
Hmm.
have the off the court stuff. His choices off the court were suspect to say the least. And I think bringing in a high character dude, while I don't know if he's going to get a whole lot of playing time this season in terms of Marjon Beauchamp, I think bringing in a young guy that you can at least have on deck if the Clippers pull the plug on this iteration of the team, um, I think having that is a good insurance policy. Um,
I think the
and
plug's got to be pulled.
that you think, oh yeah, well we'll get there in a second, but I think in terms of also this kind of goes hand in hand and with the Bogdan trade. I think that Bogdan can handle the ball, he can make plays, and I think that Bogdan will kind of not only fill a role that Terance left, but fill a role that Kevin Porter Jr. left in the trade. And I think you can trust Bogdan to handle the ball and make the right decision over Kevin Porter Jr. for sure. Um, so, I think that was, if we're taking all of that into consideration, it makes sense. And then the last move was not a trade, but a buyout, a buyout signing that the Clippers made.
I'm sorry to
Um,
to cut you off really quick. What
no, you're
what team
good.
did Kevin Porter Jr. get traded to again?
The Bucks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just to really quick put my input on that
Sure, sure.
trade.
Yeah, 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 sure.
I think Kevin Porter Jr. was, like you said, he's kind of off and on. Um, we were expecting. I feel like we were expecting him to be the player he was on the Rockets, which is tough for him to be because that what they kind of at that time had built the team around him on him like being one of the stars on the team. Obviously, he had some actions outside of
Yeah, you
NBA
could say that.
basketball that denied his opportunities. And on the Clippers, I just don't think that he was able to really gel and be that same type of person. To be honest, I didn't really like him on the Clippers. It was kind of one of those things where he wore a Clippers jersey, so
You
I was
gotta,
glad when he
yeah,
scored.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, overall, I mean, I think he'll do well on the Bucks, kind of coming off the bench for them and being
Maybe.
like a main scoring option. But I don't think that really moves me. And I don't think Beauchamp on the Clippers really moves me. I
That's fair.
mean, like I said, it's kind of hard to get over like Terance Mann leaving. I mean, he didn't get too much playing time. I think we all saw towards towards the trade deadline, he wasn't really getting too many minutes. He wasn't even getting like garbage time against the Lakers. Well, I think he did get garbage time against the Lakers, but well, like a couple minutes. And um, yeah, I think like we can move on to the next trade, but Um, for me, this one wasn't really like I'm looking at the trades, like what we got for what we gave up, and I'm just thinking that we can give our grades on like I guess the Clippers overall trade deadline.
Yeah.
But I just didn't really feel moved
That
on
that that's fair. I
on
do think
this.
another thing to touch on with the Terrence trade is Terrence was under contract for another 3 years. Bogdan is only under contract for the next two, including this year.
Hmm.
So I think that it's very clear what the Clippers are trying to do after those two trades. The Clippers were, I think, 4 million under the luxury tax, which allowed them to make a buyout signing. And it
Right.
also, getting Terance off the books allows the Clippers to have, I think it was roughly 120 million in cap space in the summer of 2026, in which the if you guys look at the free agent market in 2026, it's pretty stacked, and I think that a lot of
Mhm.
teams are going to be going headhunting. So I do understand why the Clippers are going to want to be able to have the big guns and have a lot of money to throw at players in that summer, because I do think that aligns with when we will kind of say goodbye to the Kawhi and Harden era, or the Kawhi era in general. So I get it from that standpoint, but the final move that the Clippers made was, as I said before, it wasn't a trade. The Clippers found themselves below the luxury tax, which allowed them to make a buyout signing, and the Clippers had a meeting with Ben Simmons and confirmed or agreed to a deal with Ben Simmons. I think it's just for the rest of the season. Now, Rola is going to have an opinion on this. I'm just going to give my quick opinion on this. I think that, in losing Mo Bamba and in bringing in Eubanks, who's, I believe to be serviceable, there's a little bit of a void still at the backup five. But in losing Kevin Porter, there's definitely a void, in terms of facilitating, and that's been a really big point of emphasis for the Clippers. The Clippers, we saw it against the Pacers and the Lakers, two losses. The Clippers really, really have trouble taking care of the ball, with James Harden on the floor, and especially without him on the floor. So I do think that signing a guy that can focus pretty much primarily on facilitating defense and rebound, whether he's playing as the de facto point guard or whether he's playing at the five as a playmaking five, I think it's an interesting look, and I do think it's a low risk, high reward, just because the Clippers aren't paying him a ton of money. It's not a lengthy deal. It was a buyout signing, so we didn't have to give up any assets for him.
Mhm.
Personally, I like the Ben Simmons signing. I don't think it's going to move the needle a whole lot, but I think there's a lot of players that we could sign that would be a lot worse in terms of just offering the Clippers what exactly it is that they need. Rolla, I want to hear your take, because I know you are not a huge Ben Simmons fan, so
I'm not.
this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit on the story on why I don't um, like Ben Simmons and why I don't appreciate Ben Simmons. This is a former number one pick in the NBA draft. I forgot which, I think this was 2020, 18, when he got drafted. Former number one pick. The expectation for this dude was, he's a 6'10 guard, 240 pounds, can pass, boards, dunk. His only issue was shooting. Uh, I'm not sure how long, but well, I guess what he's been in the league for, ten, what, like 10 years?
No, I don't think it's been
Um,
that long, has it? That makes me feel old. Let me see.
almost 10. Almost. I don't know what. I don't know when he got drafted. I don't know how
2016,
long.
yeah. So yeah,
2016. Yeah. So
pretty close
almost
to
10
it. Yeah.
years. 11 or 9 years. Um, this dude has done absolutely nothing in the league. With the talent he came in with, he has not progressed almost at all. I'm looking at his stats from this season so far. He's played 33 games and he is averaging 6.2 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, and 6.9 assists per game. Um, this is coming from a dude who is 6'10", 240 pounds. They're talking shit on Luka Doncic being fat, being unmotivated, and that dude is averaging like 30 points with 10 boards and 10 assists. This from a dude who's like Ben Simmons should be what Luka is, right? When it comes to the talent, when it comes to what he brings to the table, but he's not. And the reason why is because he's lazy and he doesn't want it. He doesn't have that mentality that you need from a NBA player, and quite frankly, he's a thief. He consistently has stolen money from the NBA from other players that could, like, quite frankly, might deserve it more than he does. And this is another case where, I guess like for the on the Clippers side, we're not really giving up anything for him.
Well, that's
We
just
got
it.
him on. I mean, it's a buyout. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is the right mentality we should have on the team, especially after we gave up someone like Terance Mann with the right mentality. And we just got rid of Paul George, who had the similar mentality that Ben Simmons had. I don't want Ben Simmons infecting the rest of the team, getting injured, and sitting on the bench and just stealing money. And I feel like
But
that's what's
stealing
going to
what
happen.
money? He's not
Oh,
getting
I guess
anything.
I get not from us, but I mean that's it's I feel like it's a waste of a roster spot. And we're riding on a
But who else are
hypothetical
we
of
gonna get? Who else would we
literally
get?
anyone. I genuinely think anyone is better than Ben Simmons because we're riding on a hypothetical of he could be. This is the same hypothetical we've had every single year for this dude because he's 6'10" to 40. But he
But that would
doesn't
be
want it, bro.
that would
He
be.
genuinely doesn't want it.
I think he would let your expectations down if you expected him to come in and score or be the first round pick or first pick in the draft, Ben Simmons, right?
No,
That is not.
we're expecting him to be a point guard. Am
Um,
I wrong on that?
I think we're expecting him to be a trigger man. I don't think that he has to necessarily be a point guard. I think that he just has to take care. Like we've been so bad at taking care of the ball that we have trouble getting across half court. I think
That's a
that if
point
there's
guard,
one
bro.
thing, no, I know, but he doesn't necessarily have to be the one with the ball in his hands at all times. I think that with his size and with his playmaking ability, you
But I
can
think
have
that's
him
what's gonna happen, dude.
pass out of the short roll. I think that if you look at what Ben Simmons has offered the Nets this year, right? He's been averaging
And
like
that's
close
the
to
worst
six.
team in the fucking
No, I know,
league.
but if you look at what he's been offering the Nets at a consistent level, he's been averaging about 6 assists a game. He's been playing defense. He's been able to get rebounds. If he could just give us that, which is something that we do need. We don't need him to score, especially with adding
Dude, but he's
Bogdan
not
Bogdanovic.
his history has shown that he's not gonna do it, bro. Who
That he
cares
can't
about the
even
regular
pass.
season?
He can
Who ca-
pass.
he can pass. Of course we know he can
That's what
pass.
we need
But
him to
will
do.
he?
Yes, I believe so. He's been doing it with the Nets.
I just don't trust him, dude. I just don't trust him. I think his history shows that he's not the guy you want on your
And
team.
my response to you would be that it would be this:
He's been on the Nets for years,
if we
bro.
aren't able to trust him this season, and he doesn't live up to the small expectations that we have for him this season,
Then what?
then we let him walk. We don't
We
lose
gotta
any
let
money.
everyone walk, bro. Everyone's gotta go.
What do you
Everyone's gotta
mean?
go. I think everyone's gotta go. I think
But
I think
that
this
doesn't explain the conversation at hand right now. We're talking about Ben
I
Simmons.
so I'm talking okay. I think Ben Simmons does nothing for us. I don't think he moves us up. I don't think he moves the needle down. I think that this season is I personally think this season is done. It's a wash.
Okay.
What's the next step? We're picking up Ben Simmons. Why? What's the next step?
I
I
think
mean, it's
because we
just
have the players that we
like
have right
we're
now,
picking up Ben
because
Simmons to come off the. Hopefully, he'll be able to come off the bench, right, and provide some sort of value. But this dude is so injury prone, and is injury prone for no reason, and has no will or want to come back. That I just think when it comes down to it, when we're heading into the playoffs, he's not going to be available. We're not going to have him available. We're going to have Kawhi available for 1 week, and then it's just going to be James Harden trying to win us a game. And then we're a
but
first round exit, and then we go into the next season trying to like put some pieces together, bro.
we
At
have
some
the
point,
team that
we just gotta,
we have the team that we have. The trade deadline's over. So based on that, we have to do what we can with the cards that we have. And what we
yeah.
have is the
I,
team that's in front of us. We're adding a guy that fills a need to the team that we have in front of us,
but when
right?
it comes down to it, dude, it's the mentality, bro. It's just so hurtful. Like I said, it's a slap in the face.
Do you think that
It's
he's
so
better than
hurtful to
Kevin
see,
Porter Jr.?
dude. Kevin Porter Jr. at least wants to play basketball. I don't think Ben
Does
Simmons
he?
likes. I don't. I genuinely don't think Ben Simmons likes the game of basketball. I'm kind of going back to a podcast that Patrick Beverly was on, where he said a lot of these players in the NBA do not like the game of basketball at all, and he's like, sometimes they're the best players on the team. Ben Simmons is one of those guys, in my opinion. I also think Paul George is one of those guys, but that's another story for another
Sure.
day.
And Paul George was getting paid millions and millions of dollars. It's a completely different situation.
Ben Simmons is not getting paid millions. Dude, he
He's
made
getting
like
paid
80 mil.
I'm
He
talking
made
about
like
with
80
this
mil
clip.
on the Nets, bro.
Who cares what's going on with the Nets or the
But
or
that's what
the
that's what I'm trying to say, dude. Like the mentality isn't there. We replaced a dude with that like mentality of like, this is the playoffs. These are big moments. I'm in the NBA. These are big games. Let me at the very minimum bring some energy and try, with a guy who's not gonna bring the energy and try.
but there's not any pressure to play him and to play him in the same role that you would play a guy that's getting paid all day. Like he's the 10th option on our team in terms of offense. Like there's not that level of responsibility. We don't need him to do hardly
I just
anything.
I just don't understand like where we're headed.
I
That's
mean
just it for
that's
me.
kind of a different discussion. Well, what
No,
I'm
but
talking
I think it includes like picking up a guy like Ben Simmons,
Sure, but
trading away someone like
we've made
Terance
that
Mann.
decision. We've made that decision. The Clippers have made the decision to keep this team together and try and compete this season. Lean back into the defense that has been so good for us this season. I believe that Ben Simmons can help with that. He's not a bad defender. That's probably the one thing that he's been able to do in his entire throughout the course of his entire career is play defense. He's a good
Hmm.
defender. He's not just a
Yeah,
moderate defender. He's good and he's
but the best
big,
ability is availability, bro.
of course. And if if he gets hurt, then we can say that okay, like we're
Or
we're
he's gonna
only
stub his
eating a
toe
couple
and be
million.
fucking chilling for the whole goddamn season.
We'll see. We'll see. Let's not put that out into the universe right
Oh
now.
God, dude, and
I
he's in
think
LA.
I think that that there were a lot worse signings that we could have made than Ben Simmons because I guarantee if another team signs him and he plays even remotely close to the way that he played with the Nets this year, he would help another team. So I personally think based on what the Clippers have really, because the Clippers have looked bad the last couple of games, which we'll talk about in
Bad.
a second. I think that we need any help that we can get in the areas of the game that we're struggling in. And the two areas in the game that we're struggling with the last couple of games have been defense and taking care of the ball. And those are two things that Ben Simmons can at least on paper help the Clippers with. I'm fine with him scoring two
Yeah,
points a game.
it's gonna be sick to have that. To have those weaknesses addressed for the 2 weeks he'll be healthy.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about health. Health is a whole nother thing. Anybody can get hurt. Anybody can
Yeah,
get
no,
hurt.
but he's not hurt. He'll have back soreness and be out for 2 months.
We'll see.
And
We'll
I'm
see.
not like, the thing is, I'm not exaggerating. He has done that.
But basically, the Clippers replaced the guys that weren't playing. I mean, let's take a look real quick before we move on to the next segment. Let's take a look real quick at who the Clippers lost at the
Okay.
deadline. Terance, obviously, that's a big deal
Hmm.
to us, but he wasn't
And to
playing
the
a ton.
team.
Then you got Bones Highland. I'm not sure Bones Highland is even an NBA player at this point.
That's
And that sucks to
crazy.
say, but he hasn't looked good. He didn't look good when we needed him to fill the role that Russ left when Russ
Hmm.
broke his hand last season. And he's been bad in garbage time this season. So we're losing him. Mo Bamba, who hasn't been good this year. Kevin Porter, who's a domestic abuser and hasn't been great for the Clippers this year. And PJ Tucker, who's been getting paid $11.5 million to collect shoes at home. So none
Hmm.
of these guys were really playing much or like offering a whole lot to the team this year. We'll keep Terance Mann out of this discussion, but the rest of the guys didn't provide a whole lot to the team this year. So you're bringing in guys that, yes, like maybe they can't offer a ton, but at the very least, I believe that they can offer more than the guys that we gave up at the deadline. I mean, if you compare and contrast the group that we brought in to the group that we got rid of, I do think that on paper this year there's more to be provided. So we'll see. As far as health, none of us can predict that. There are players that were traded for a lot more this deadline that are a lot more injury prone than Ben Simmons. I can tell you that, which we will talk about coming up, guys. We're gonna wrap up the Clippers discussion real quick. We're gonna talk about the trade deadline as a whole, and we're gonna jump into a segment called what is it? Grade the trade.
It's the new segment, Quick Takes, special
Yes.
edition.
So we will be right
Grade
back
the
after this.
trade.
Right back after this break, guys.
All right, guys, we're back, and we're gonna get right into Quick Takes, special edition. Grade the trade. Nick, I'm going to uh, basically give you a trade that happened during this trade deadline.
Sure.
What I'm going to need from you is before you even
What do you need
speak
from me,
on it,
buddy?
I'm going to need a grade from you, A plus to F minus
Okay, we're
on,
okay. F minus. I like that.
yeah, on your feelings about the trade
Sure.
and what that new player will do to that new team
Okay.
or what effect they'll have.
Sure.
So starting off with Brandon Ingram to the Raptors. What are you giving that?
I'm giving that like. Well, I think that the grade is different between the two teams involved. Do I have to give different grades
No,
to both teams
just to the to the
overall?
to the to no to the final team, to the Raptors.
Okay, to the Raptors.
Yeah.
I'm giving that a C. I'm giving that a C because I would also like to know real quick what year the first round pick. So basically the pick or the trade was Brandon Ingram to the Raptors. The Pelicans received Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a first round pick and a second round pick. Now, if that is a first round pick in this year's draft, I might even give this trade a D because
Wow.
this draft class is so stacked, and the Raptors have been pretty much tanking all season long to try and I would imagine get a high pick in this year's draft. It's stacked. Um,
You
but
think this year's draft is stacked?
yes, yeah, this upcoming draft. Even outside of Cooper Flag, it is absolutely stacked. We will do another draft. We'll talk
Interesting.
about it on another show, but if it's for this year, I think I would give it a D. Otherwise, I would give it like a C plus. And the only reason why I say that is because Brandon Ingram's, I mean, he's starting to have that injury prone tag. So that's already kind of a little bit of a red flag. But I mean, I think the fit is there, sort of. I mean, as it stands right now, you would imagine that the core for the Raptors is quickly Barrett, Grady Dick, maybe Jonathan Mobo if he
Grady who?
pause. Uh, maybe Jonathan Mobo if he pans out. But you put Brandon Ingram in there and Pirtle. But you put Brandon Ingram there, the fit is kind of there, but it's like trading away that draft capital. Um, you're basically saying that that would equate to if they did get a lottery pick, maybe they got a top 5 pick, whoever they would get in that particular draft, whatever that draft class might be. And I think that is a little bit of a big risk. I think that the teams that should be probably trading for, a player like Brandon Ingram are, teams that are going to try and compete. And I don't really see the Raptors competing in the next couple of years. So I just think it's odd. I give it a C plus. And as I said, if the first round pick conveys this particular draft class, then I would give it a D.
Uh, I probably would give this a B, just because. I mean, you mentioned the draft capital, but I think at the end of the day, I'd rather have the player than the draft capital, just because you never know when drafting players. But when you're picking up Brandon Ingram, that's an all-star level player when he's healthy.
Sure.
And I would rather kind of make decisions on what I know and kind of move forward with that. Okay, on to the next trade. And Nick, just a heads up, this is a quick take, so I'm going to need you to keep
Oh,
it
okay. Yeah. I'm
2
very
minutes and
sorry.
under. We have a decent amount of trades to get through.
Sure.
Second trade, the Kings get Zach LaVine
Good old Zach attack.
How you
Um,
feeling about that?
I'm giving that. I'm giving that a B. I'm giving that a B. I think that the Kings needed to move on from De'Aaron Fox. I think you could do a lot worse in terms of like being able to replicate the scoring output that was left when Fox was traded.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that with him, it's also there's injury concern, but um, I think that overall he can provide a scoring punch. They already have Malik Monk, so that's a lot of scoring in the backcourt.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'll give that a B.
I think I'm gonna also give that one a B. Um, the Kings have DeMar DeRozan, right?
Still, yeah. So
Um,
basically, all of the Bulls that
yeah,
played
I
together
think
now play for the Kings.
I don't think the Kings are gonna get any better or any worse. I mean, I feel like Zach Levine is kind of a horizontal
It's very
shift.
lateral. Yeah,
Yeah, lateral shift. I think that he and De'Aaron Fox kind of have a similar talent level. That when Zach Levine gets hot, he's like as hot as it gets. Pause. uh,
a lot of pausing going
but
on this episode.
I think the chemistry between Zach Levine and DeMar DeRozan is pretty huge. To just like kind of put them back
Sure, they
together,
played
and they'll
together.
be able to
Yeah,
gel a little bit easier than how they traded for someone else.
sure.
And moving on to the next trade, and this one's a little bit of a false trade, but the Lakers getting Mark Williams from the Hornets, which they ended up not getting
Yeah, the trade was
due to
rescinded.
some health concerns from the
Didn't pass
Lakers.
the physical. The yeah.
He did not
Uh,
pass the physical.
I mean, so do I need to be grading this on if the trade went through?
Uh, Overall,
The fuck
like
does
the
that even mean?
Lakers, the Lakers, the trade, and then the Lakers' decision to basically send him back.
Um,
Grade their decision making.
okay. Um, I said last episode, I'm gonna keep this quick, but I said last episode if the Lakers were able to fill the role that AD left in terms of just having a big, like a solid big that aligns with Luka's timeline a little bit, I would think a little bit differently of the Luka trade. I think that they were kind of halfway there with the Mark Williams thing. I do think that Mark Williams has more red flags than I had for Luka in terms of his effort, his health, and his defense. He's like the,
Hmm.
the red flags that I had with Luka, multiply that by four, and then you get Mark Williams. He's a beast offensively, and he can grab you rebounds. He's very young. He's got the
Hmm.
measurables. But I think that if the trade were to go through, I think that the Lakers are putting a ton of risk into that iteration of the team because Mark Williams would be due for an extension. They'd be giving up Dalton Connect, who has struggled a little bit at times this year so far, but he's shown this year too that he can shoot lights out. And giving that away along with the first round pick that they were going to get rid of, it would have been a risk. Now,
Yeah.
looking at the trade being rescinded, it's tough because I think.
Did you give this a grade? I can't
Oh
remember.
yeah, I mean the initial trade I would have given it a C.
Okay.
Um, but I think that now that it's been rescinded, you know, I give it a C plus because, and I only say that because the trade deadline has now come and gone. Some of the buyout candidates that are available have come and gone, signed with other teams.
Hmm.
Um, and now the Lakers are faced with an issue. They have Dalton Connect back, a guy that knows that he was expected to be traded. So, there's it's going to be awkward for both parties. And
I don't
now
think it'll be that awkward.
I think it'll be a little awkward. And I think Dalton Connect will be gone this offseason. But I think now the market is dried up, and now the Lakers are faced with the same issue that they had, but now they have no options. I mean, like I've heard talks that they're looking into buying out or signing Alex Len if he was bought out. I think that Alex Len was initially supposed to go to like the Pacers or something like that, or some other team, but he pulled out of that transaction because of the situation with the Lakers, and I think that they might sign him. I mean, you got Mo Bamba, you got Moses Brown,
Ooh.
basically all the centers that didn't work out for the Clippers. You have them,
Yeah.
but I don't think that those guys address the need that the Lakers have in terms of defense in the front court. So the Lakers are in a little bit of a pickle. Obviously, acquiring Luka Doncic kind of
Who's playing
mitigates all of that. He's playing,
in
yeah, in
45
about
minutes?
30 minutes. Um, but yeah, I give it like a C. The Lakers got some decisions to make if they want to
Yeah.
compete this year. If they don't want to compete this year,
Um,
then whatever, they're fine. But
I think they're trying to compete this year.
well, if they are, they got a
I
big
would,
ass hole that they need to fill.
yeah,
Pause.
definitely. Big pause. I think the initial trade was a D. To me, it seemed like a very hasty, like we need to get this done. We need to get this done type of move. So much so that when it came down to it, there were so many red flags that they could not ignore that they had to rescind the trade. And I feel like that just shows like very poor decision making and almost like being puppeteered by your stars, by LeBron and Luca, which I don't think that is the right thing to do as a as a management, as a general manager,
Mhm.
because we saw how that worked out with Russell Westbrook. I mean, LeBron. Everyone knows LeBron wanted Russ, and he came to the Lakers and kind of ruined everything for them, and kind of ruined their. I don't want to say ruined their future, but they were kind of like stuck in a place, kind of not going anywhere. And I think the players that they gave up for Russ were pretty vital to their championship team. So I just feel like overall was a pretty poor decision, and I think that they're kind of screwed going forward, which is kind of, well, not screwed. I mean, they have Luka Doncic, but
Right. But there
it's
there are
pretty
holes that
hilarious.
there are issues that need to be addressed
Yeah, I mean,
with the Lakers for
as a
sure.
Lakers hater, it's hilarious.
Sure.
You'd love to see it.
Of course.
And that's that. Moving on to the next
Yes, sir.
trade. Moving on to the next trade. We got the Cavaliers trade for DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks.
I thought did you have anything else to say?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Give me your grade.
I thought that
First
that
and
was a
foremost.
great trade for the Hawks. DeAndre Hunter, who's having the best season of his career.
Didn't he
Um,
start his career on the Hawks? Am I crazy?
he did. He did. He's had like a kind of like a hot and cold, career thus far. But this year he's been, I think, the leading scorer off the bench in the entire NBA. Um, and he's been really, really good. They traded away Karis LeVert and George Niang, who have been solid for the Cavs, but I think with DeAndre Hunter, the Cavs are able to add that starting three that they've been trying to figure out for the last 3 years. It was Isaac Okoro at times. Sometimes it would be Max Strus. Who they still have. It was kind of a revolving door. Sometimes it would be Karis LeVert. And now they have a guy that can really get you. They already add a lot of scoring to a really potent offensive backcourt and Garland and Mitchell. And with a trade like this, I think, in my personal opinion, the Cavs are my favorites to come out of the East. I think that they present a ton of matchup nightmares for the reigning champs, the Boston Celtics. Um, I think that they can go toe to toe with just about anybody in the East, and especially adding a guy that can give you 25 to 30 points a night. In DeAndre Hunter, it's a huge swing, and I think it was quietly to me like one of the better deals of the trade deadline.
Yeah, very
I
quiet.
give it an A+.
Okay, gotcha. Um, I would give this an A also. Just because I think, like you said, the Cavs are one of the best teams in the league currently. They're very deep, and I think this just deepens their team. I mean, they don't seem to have a glaring weakness to the team, and I think that's been shown at how well they've been playing against the top teams. I haven't really been paying too much attention to DeAndre Hunter. I know he's been scoring really well off the bench. But this is just a great pickup for the Cavs.
Yeah, they've been quietly just a powerhouse this whole season,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the
I
trade
think
deadline kind
made
of
a great team even better.
yeah.
All right, on to the next trade. This was a big one where we discussed a little bit last week on the last episode, where I made a hot take that
Oh yeah.
this player was coming to the Clippers, and then an hour later he signed with the Spurs. And of course, I am referring to De'Aaron Fox, who got traded from the Kings to the Spurs. What's your grade on that?
I give it an A. I give it a strong A. Um, I think that it takes the ball, because De'Aaron Fox, he can pass the ball. He likes to score. I think it takes the ball out of some of their other guys' hands, like Vassell, and sometimes in some cases even Wemby. But I think, you know, putting a guy that's under the age of 30 next to Wemby, and you still have Chris Paul as like a mentor. Um, Putting a guy that's more aligned with Wemby's like trajectory, like his the path that he's going to be taking in his career. A guy that can be a leader. One of the plays at one of the fastest speeds in the league. Wemby can run the floor as well. I think it's huge, and I think that he's the type of player that that Spurs culture really like does well with.
Hmm.
Very high character dude. He can play within a system.
Yeah.
I think it was really it was good, and they gave up some draft capital to acquire him. But I think as far as like the players that they got rid of, I think it was just like Trey Jones and I can't remember who else. But it was well worth it to get a guy like Fox. So and he's been playing well for the Spurs so far. So I give that an A.
Yeah, I'll also give this one an A solely because the Spurs kept Chris Paul, and I feel like that is so huge. Because we saw, um, for example, we saw SGA's development playing alongside Chris Paul,
Mm,
playing alongside a pure point guard, and being able to pick his brain and kind of watch how the game is played from that level of thought and intelligence. And I think that De'Aaron Fox kind of has a similar play style to SGA in the sense of he's not like a shooter, 3 point shooter. He's kind of makes his mark in the mid range or like, kind of in the paint. And, I think that De'Aaron Fox, if he really, wants to uh, and, values Chris Paul, I think his gameplay, especially playing with someone like Victor Wembanyama, I think that he's gonna get so much better within the next year or two, and he's kind of like hitting his prime right now, but I think that he's gonna hit his peak in probably like a year or two, and just be that guy with the Spurs and with Victor Wembanyama, and I think that they're gonna be a real threat when they're all in that on that level.
yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, I'd give it an A. All right, and moving on to we got two more trades left to cover. Actually, the Luca trade doesn't really count because we
We already
discussed that
talked about
last.
that. We don't
Yeah,
need to
so
talk about that shit anymore.
this is the last trade. This was a big trade because of all the drama that happened regarding this player. This is the trade of outside of Luca of the year was Jimmy Butler to the Warriors in a very exciting and eventful couple weeks where we saw a little bit of pettiness from Jimmy Butler, a little bit of pettiness from the Miami Heat, and almost kind of, I would describe the Warriors as a thirsty franchise looking for any type of help or superstar to come to their team, and they landed on Jimmy Butler. What would you grade this, Nick?
Um, I mean, I give it an A just because both teams did what they needed to do in terms of like the players that were on paper that were traded. I don't think it moves the needle much, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Andrew Wiggins and who was it? Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and Davion Mitchell um, doesn't help the Heat a whole lot. I mean, but it does help in the fact that Jimmy Butler wasn't playing, so they needed to make that trade. Jimmy Butler was not going to play with the Heat, so they acquired something for him. And with the on the other side, with the Warriors, they were in a weird limbo where they didn't want to trade Steph, obviously, but Steph needed help offensively. And they were knocking on the doors, calling up everybody or every GM in the league, asking for anything close to an all-star level player. They were able to get it. Steph has a little bit of help now. Whether or not that matters in terms of competing for a championship remains to be seen. I don't see them as a championship caliber team this year, but at least they addressed what they needed to do to make it possible, right? Like I think adding Jimmy Butler makes it possible. So, um, yeah, I give it an A just because both teams ended up doing what they needed to do. What do you have to
Yeah,
say?
so uh I'm giving this trade an F minus
Holy
and
shit.
an
Okay.
F minus.
Okay. Let's hear
I
it.
just looked up Jimmy Butler's age. This dude is 35 years old.
Yeah, yeah, he's no
I
he's not
think
a youngin
he's not a
anymore.
youngin, and he's not close. He's probably
Pretty
closer
far
to
from it. Yeah.
he's probably closer to retiring than he is to his prime, if we're
Yeah.
being honest.
Hmm.
Um, what I mean, I think honestly, the Warriors might be in a worse situation than the Clippers. The only
Oh,
difference
I think
between the
it's
Clippers and the Warriors is the Warriors at least won championships.
sure.
Clippers didn't
But
win shit.
if we're talking about this year, I would agree with you. I think that the Warriors are in a worse position.
They are in a worse position. The thing about the Warriors is I think they're still trying to win championships, which is just unrealistic. If we're being real, it's unrealistic within the next, couple of years. Steph Curry is probably what, like 36, 37, maybe?
Yeah. And he
All right. I mean,
looks tired and he
he
looks
looks
and obviously
like he's
like
regressing
Steph's
a tiny
yeah.
bit.
Quite
He's
a bit, I
36 years
think.
old.
Yeah.
So if we're being real, they're not winning the chip this year. So best case is next year, and Steph Curry will be 37 years old. I mean, this guy can only be the number one guy for so long. I mean, he's not LeBron James. He's had injury problems in his past. Everyone knows about the ankles.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about the broken hand. I mean, he still has the talent. He's still Steph Curry. He's still
Of
one of the
course.
best players of all time,
Greatest
top
point
five
guard
in
of all
my
time.
opinion. But it's just one of those things where I think that you just have to, as the Warriors franchise, you just gotta ride with Steph Curry until he retires.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
just because you like what he did for the franchise. It's just one of those things where
You
you
owe
just
it to him.
gotta exactly. Um, so I think with Jimmy Butler on the team, I think it's almost like a waste of money. This is a dude who kind of has a bad attitude. He's kind of had a history of having a bad attitude, and he's old. He doesn't really bring much 3-point value to the team, and we know that's what the Steph Curry or what the Warriors have kind of been for the past couple years. And I just feel like it was one of those things where they were begging, they were thirsty for another all star type player, and they landed on probably the worst all star type player they could have picked up.
Yeah, I mean that's just it. They were thirsty for it, but at the end of the day, they fulfilled their sort of promise to Steph to try and keep them competitive on paper. And so
Yeah.
that's why I give it an A, but I agree. Like I agree with you to the point that I don't think that it moves the needle much.
Hmm.
But we'll see. Um, but yeah, I think that pretty much does it
That's
for
it.
the trades. I mean, Kyle Kuzma went to the Bucks. Um,
We don't care about that.
there's other moves. Nurkic went to the Hornets. That doesn't mean
We don't care about
anything.
that. We don't care.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, these were the big moves. And those are our opinions on it, guys. So that pretty much does it for grade the trade. We're gonna quickly jump into recaps of the last three games, and then breeze through previews and get ready for All Star break because Norman Powell will be representing the Clippers in the 3-point contest. We'll talk about that briefly as well right after this break. All right, guys, we are back. Going to talk about the last three games from the LA Clippers. First of which, the first two games were completely frustrating games. If we had an hour to talk about these games, we would. We don't, so we're going to keep it very brief. The first game was against the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka Doncic was in the building on the bench. It was this big deal in Intuit Dome in the Clippers' own home court,
The
in their
building.
own stadium, in their own building. And the Clippers got embarrassed pretty much from jump ball.
Mhm.
This was the most aggressive I've seen LeBron play in a long time, and
Yep.
it felt like the Lakers were playing with the sense of urgency that you would have when you just acquired Luka Doncic and he was sitting right there on the bench. I mean, it was play after play. Their defense was ratcheting up. Give props to JJ Redick. He was shrinking the floor. Zubats wasn't a factor in this one, and they completely destroyed us. LeBron had 26. Rui Hachimura had 20. Reeves had 20. Gabe Vincent chipped in with 12 off the bench. They were great. And the Clippers were really, really bad. Kawhi and James were bad in this one. 11 from Kawhi, 7 from James Harden. Norman Powell, you expect 20 from him, but it wasn't very efficient. Um, and he was getting attacked on defense all game long. Derek Jones had 17. I would say him and Zoo, you could tell was trying, but this was a really rough game from Zoo in terms of just converting points. But 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 I would say Zoo and Derek were kind of the only players that were really trying in this one. Everybody else looked a little flat. And it was a shame to see. It was like a 20 something point lead for most of the game. The Clippers were able to cut it into 13, but then the Lakers went on a 7-0 run in like 2 minutes after that, and it was a 20-point game again. So this one was horrible. Just knowing everything that was at stake, the reputation that the Clippers had to uphold, and they fell short. Did you have anything in this one, Rola? I can't even really talk about it much more.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the Super Bowl yesterday,
I did.
um, but I feel like kind of the same vibe in this Laker Clippers game and the Super Bowl yesterday, in that it seemed like the Clippers weren't there to play basketball.
Yeah.
They stepped in the building, they laced up their shoes, they walked out there and just didn't give a single fuck. Their minds were elsewhere, and the Lakers came in ready to fucking ball, and that's
Yeah.
what they did. From start to finish, the Lakers absolutely destroyed us. Didn't even
Bronny
look,
hit a three in the
bruh.
game, and the crowd went
Bronny
insane.
hit his first three ever,
That's
bro.
that was the kind of game that this game was. And I had to hear about it at work the entire next day. That was what was so devastating about it. It's like the Clippers played like they
They
didn't
didn't want
care.
it, bro.
They didn't care that Clipper fans were about to take an absolute beating. Clipper fans in LA were about to take an absolute beating the following day at their respective jobs or from their friends and stuff. And that's exactly what happened.
The thing with sports is, it's such a huge a part of sports is wanting to win.
Sure.
Do you want to win truly?
Clippers didn't
And
that night. That's for
no,
fucking sure.
there's a very common saying that I feel like a lot of people say, um, is there's no stat for heart. You never truly
Really deep.
know. No, it's true. You never truly know, and this is one of the reasons why I'm
Well,
so
if
sick
you're
that we
hooked up
lost
to a
Terance
if you're
Mann.
hooked up to a heart monitor, there's
No, there's no
stats
stat for
for
heart,
it.
bro. There's no stat to show how much a person really wants something. They can
Sure.
say, "Oh, I really want to win," but are you going to show it on the court? The Clippers did not show that they wanted to win, and the Lakers did. And they showed it in front of Luca. They showed it without Anthony Davis, without Luca. LeBron said, "You know what? I'm going to put this team on my back at 40 years old
Yeah.
and show Luca that we are a championship level team,
Mm,
and all we need is you to bring it home for us."
mm.
He dunked the ball in front of our crowd, turned to Luca and said,
What did he say? I don't even know.
Yeah, I can't remember. But
Roland's
he was
just
like,
making up,
I was about to make up
he
some
turned to
bullshit.
Luca, and
But he
the
did.
spotlight was on him, and
But
fire
he,
was coming
it
out of
was.
his
I mean, it
eyes.
was a while. It was earlier last week. But
I know what you're talking about. I know
he
the
did
moment
say
you're talking about.
Yeah, he did say something
It's
around
something
along the lines of,
that was for
"This is
you
for
or some
you," or
shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And Luca's sitting there smiling,
Luca,
damn,
this is for you. That's what he
bro.
said.
But Luca's sitting there smiling like, damn, this team just lost their second biggest star, and they're beating well, I think believe we were in sixth place at the time. They're beating a sixth place playoff at the time level team by 20 plus.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing else to really say about this game. It was trash. Point
yeah.
blank
It
period.
was it
No one
was
wanted it.
quite ass. I don't want to talk about it
Kauai.
anymore. What was that?
Kauai ass.
Kauai? Kauai ass. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It was. And the following game wasn't much better. The following game was a different kind of heartbreak, though. So I will give the Clippers that they mixed it up in terms of the heartbreak that they delivered. Because, and I give them props for that. It wasn't the same. It wasn't a
Yeah.
beat down from the start. So in this game, the
It was
Clippers
a
got out
front
to
hand
it.
backhand slap.
No, 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 no. In this game, the Clippers got out to a 22-point lead in the first quarter. They were running the Pacers out of the building. The Clippers played the Indiana Pacers, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We're running the Pacers out of the building. The Pacers play at a really breakneck speed, and the Clippers were shutting everything down. And then Miles Turner gets elbowed in the face by his own teammate. He goes out with a concussion, which was very scary to watch. He was barely made it off the court. Um, so they didn't have Miles Turner. Thomas Bryant comes in. So they were down. They were down their starting center, and it seemed like from that point the Clippers felt like they were going to just cruise to the win, and they let the Pacers go on like a 37-5 run. And granted, the Pacers, like I said, they play really fast. They almost completed a comeback against the Lakers the following game, but they just turned on the Jets and completely punched back, and the Clippers couldn't recover at all. Pascal
No.
Siakam was flawless in this game. 33 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. He was great. Tyrese Halliburton did his thing in terms of just pushing the pace. Benedict Mathurin hit some really big shots.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Bryant came in and filled that role when Miles Turner went down. Um, they played a whole lot better than we did, literally from the moment that we had that 22-point lead. Um, Clippers made it interesting in the last quarter. I think cut it to single digits. But again, they took their foot off the gas and completely let the Pacers embarrass us.
Yeah.
19 points from Kawhi. Kawhi was actually great in the fourth quarter, but he hit his. I mean, he played 33 minutes in this one, so he was like well beyond his minutes restriction. He had to sit down, and nobody else could get it done. Um,
Yep.
you know, 22 apiece from James Harden and Norm, but those two were getting attacked on defense, and James Harden, the turnovers that he had were like brain dead turnovers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he had 22 points and 10 assists, but um, the it was the costliness of when the mistakes were made. Yeah, this was a brutal game. Amir was really really bad defensively. Um, like it was just I couldn't believe what I was watching. The lead was trickling away, and the Clippers never provided any resistance. So yeah, this one following the Lakers loss I was crashing out. To be perfectly honest with you, I was yelling, I was screaming, I was throwing things. It was unhealthy, and I feel ashamed about it. But oh my
It's
god,
okay.
the Pacers completely embarrassed the Clippers, and it was those two games really had me worried. Um,
Oh, I'm still worried.
Sure, but yeah. I
You're
mean, do
not?
you have any takeaway? Not particularly, but do you have any takeaways from this
Interesting.
Pacers game?
Uh, no, I think you said everything that needs to be said. I mean, we were up big time in the first quarter, and then second quarter we kind of just let them go off. And then it was pretty. I feel like it was pretty close going up until fourth quarter, and I feel like that's where we just stopped playing, and that was that.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Two really horrible games from the Clippers, and the defense had regressed completely in both of those. So that is something that the Clippers need to really focus on. I do think adding the guys that we added may help that. I don't think Rolla will agree with me, but that's the way I feel. Um, Thankfully, the Clippers were able to beat one of the worst teams in the league in the following game, the Utah Jazz. I unfortunately didn't watch this game. Fake fan alert, I know. But just from what I can see from the stat sheet, this was a really dominant game from Zoo and from James. 23 points and 17 assists from James. That's incredible. 17 assists is insane.
Hmm.
26 and 15 from Zoo. Um, Great. Kawhi Leonard, very quiet night from him. 10 points, 4 for 9 from the field. You'd like to see some more shots, and he played 31 minutes in this one too. So if he's going to play that many minutes, you would like for him to take more shots, but it is what it is. Um, 17 points for Amir Coffey. It looked like he had a pretty good game off the bench. But yeah, I mean, there's really not much else I need to say from this
Yeah.
game other than the fact that the Clippers thankfully didn't disappoint us with a hat trick of losses. So
No,
they were
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. I tuned in for a little bit.
sure.
Um, the game was a lot closer than it appears. The
Okay.
final score shows. It was honestly pretty close until the fourth quarter, and that's where I think our experience and the fact that we're just a better team kind of showed. But we played poor defense. I feel like it didn't really look like we wanted to win. Like this is the type of team we honestly should have destroyed from beginning to finish. They don't really have anyone that's particular notable on their team, and you know, it shouldn't have been as close as it was. I mean, we honestly destroyed them towards the end of the game, but to start the fourth quarter was a lot closer than it appears. And I'll
Interesting.
say that
Yeah. I
the
mean,
Clippers don't like to me. The Clippers don't look good
yeah.
currently.
And that's fair. That's completely fair. I think that there's a lot of red flags with the Clippers, and I think the Clippers need to get back to what they're good at, and that's the defensive end of the defensive side of things.
Hmm.
Will they do that? I sure as hell hope so because we got two games before the All Star break, which we're about to talk about. But granted, I think that the Clippers will look a lot better after the All Star break once the guys that have been playing a ton of minutes get a little bit of rest. But oh my goodness, I really hope that the Clippers can finish strong because as it stands right now, the Clippers are, I think, in the play-in position. Maybe not anymore because I believe that the Timberwolves lost tonight, so I believe that they're tied for sixth. But as it stands now, they're 3 games behind the Lakers, who just added Luka Doncic. It's time to get it together and figure it out. But
Yeah.
the first game that we're going to talk about in terms of previews is going to be against the Memphis Grizzlies. This game is on Wednesday, the 12th, at home. So it's the last game before going out on the road. Um, the next like 7 or 8 games, including the ones after the All Star break, are going to be away games. So Clippers really need to handle business in this one.
Hmm.
From what I understand, Bogdanovic is going to be active for this game, which will be a big help. I don't know if Ben Simmons will be active for this one, but that would certainly help too. Um, the Memphis Grizzlies have been really, really good this season, but I do think that there are, especially with Ja in and out of the lineup, there are some things that the Clippers can take advantage of in terms of beating the Grizzlies. I think that Zoo last time that the Grizzlies and the Clippers faced off, I believe
Hmm.
Zoo had a pretty big night. I would like to see that again. Jaren Jackson Jr. likes to stretch the floor a little bit, but when Zach Edey's on the floor, I do think that Zoo matches up pretty well against Zach Edey. That traditional size big,
Yeah.
just because Zoo has a little bit more experience. Um, but again, the Clippers need to take care of the ball and they need to play defense. I think the taking care of the ball thing is the most important thing against this Grizzlies team because they are young. They do like to play fast. They're a very potent offense. And if you give them free looks, in the open court on live ball turnovers, that's going to be a way that they can make you pay. What are you looking for in this one, Rula?
Pretty much everything you said. I mean, I think that the Grizzlies are kind of rolling a little bit right now. So I think we're gonna have to bring our A game. But I don't know. I don't really Like I don't feel too good about the Clippers right now. So,
Sure.
I'm just hoping for a dub every game, man. That's it. That's it for me.
If Ben Simmons is available in this one, I would like to see him guard Jaren Jackson in stretches, just because he's a little more switchable of a defender. If Jaren Jackson does start to stretch the floor, I would like to see Ben Simmons try and pick that assignment up and try and guard him out at the perimeter. But yeah, I really, really hope the Clippers can win this one. It's going to be a big test in terms of the level of competition. I do think the
Mhm.
Clippers can win this one, but they got to get back to the defensive identity that has made them so successful this season. Because if they don't, the Grizzlies are going to run them out of their own building, just
Yeah,
like the past two teams before. So that's going to be the first game, and the second game is a matchup against the Utah Jazz again. So, so maybe if the Clippers do lose this game against the Grizzlies, maybe they can just Groundhog Day it and bounce back against the Utah Jazz. It seems like the Utah Jazz are kind of a punching bag in that regard this season. So that is definitely one that the Clippers need to handle business in. And Rolla said that
definitely.
the game against the Jazz the other day was a lot closer than it probably should have been. Would like to see the opposite in this game and have the Clippers just kind of handle business from the jump, get the new guys acquainted with the offense, and call it a day early because
Hmm.
I really think that we can't be messing around with our food anymore this late in the
Facts.
season. So,
Facts.
um, was there anything you wanted to touch on in that regard?
No, no,
Yeah,
it's, I mean, that's a Jazz, so we
that pretty
should be able
much
to take care of business.
that pretty much does it. I think that based on the amount of tiebreakers that the Clippers have lost this season too, I think that the name of the game moving forward just needs to be avoid the play-in. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that we're in a position. The Clippers are in a position right now where they can grapple for sixth, fifth, in the coming games. And I think that the more separation that the Clippers get between themselves and the play-in conversation, the better. And these last two games are going to be really important because, as I said, the Clippers go back out on the road after the All Star break, and it's like a 7 or 8 game road trip. So Clippers need to handle business at home. They've been pretty good at Intuit Dome this season. So got to get Intuit Dome looking like a fortress again and protect
Hmm.
that home court advantage. Um, but guys, that pretty much does it for this episode. We had a lot to talk about. Thank you so much for bearing with us. The trade deadline provided a lot of crazy talking points, and there was a lot to discuss. So thank you guys so much for listening in and getting our opinions on what we felt about the trade deadline. We're gonna come back to you guys again next time, hopefully to report 2 wins for the Los Angeles Clippers, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about the All Star break as a whole. We didn't have enough time this episode, but we'll talk a little bit about Norman Powell representing the Clippers in the 3-point contest. Would have liked to have him in the All Star game, but the 3-point contest is cool too. So would like to see him take a dub in that event. But we'll have a lot to talk about next episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As Rolla said up top, you can watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Deezer. Reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram. Let us know what you think of the pod. Give us a follow, comment, subscribe, all of the above. The beat goes on. Thank you for your service. And as always, let's go, Clips.
Let's go, Clips.